Hi, it's Lori from Coast to Coast Craft Girls coming to you from the West Coast. Today I'm going to show you how to make an 8x8 album. This is a hardcover, and this one's got a little shadow box on the inset. And you can see I used the Crafter's Companion spine, but I did it a little bit differently because I used a hardcover, and then it's got a little spot in the front to hide your shadow box. I'm going to show you how to make it. I'm going to make a similar one, not exactly the same as this, but you'll see it in a minute. Let's get started. So I used the 8-inch Crafter's Companion spine die. If you don't have one of these, I can tell you how to make it. It's actually pretty simple to make. And so for this one, I made one myself. You take a piece of card that's 8 inches or 8 inches tall by 7 1/4 inches long. And then you score it at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 3/4. So basically 1/2 inch, and then 1/4 inch in between, and then 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, half and half, quarter, half, quarter, half. And then when you score it all up, it looks like that. And I'm going to put together, and you basically want to score the 1/2 inch pieces together. And then the 1/4 inch pieces are going to sit against your spine. So it's going to sit like that. And then, so I use red liner tape to hold my spine pieces together. And if I can find the end of it. There it is. Oh. So basically you just run your red liner tape. And this is the wide red liner tape. You can use narrow or you can use tacky glue if you prefer. But I like the red liner tape because it's an instant grab. And it's nice and strong. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on each of the tabs. And this album will create 6 double-sided pages. So essentially 12 pages within, plus the inside cover on the front and the back. But you wanted to do something with those. Once you get all that red liner tape on there, make sure you give it a good burnish. And then you're just going to peel it off one at a time and stick the 1/2 inch pieces together. Give them a good rub so that they stick together nicely. Go to the next one. Again. And as you can see, I've got that 1/2 inch in between and the 1/4 inch in between, and the 1/2 inch pieces are going to stick up. Okay, when you're all done, it looks like that. And as you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots because the pages are going to glue onto here. This back part right here is the back of your spine, and it's going to glue to the cardboard to give you a nice stiff backing. So let's set that aside for now. Now to make that nice stiff cover, I used cardboard. Now you can use mount board. This is actually the cardboard that comes on the back of paper pads, and figured it was a good use for it. And since the album pages are 8 by 8, I made this 8.5 by 8.5, and I need 3 of them that are 8.5 by 8.5. And then I need one that's 8.5 by 2.5. So 8.5 by 2.5. And the easiest way I found to cut these is just with a craft knife. I actually tried cutting it with my large Crafter's Companion guillotine, and it worked, but I think it's pretty brutal on the guillotine, and I don't think I would do that again. So they should all be the same size. Looks like it. Now, because on the one, I'm going to put, just like on this one, I'm going to put an inset for my shadow box. So I need to cut that opening. And my shadow box that I'm going to put on, I'm actually going to do a wedding one. And I've already got my shadow box made. Now this is the Crafter's Companion 5x7 shadow box. So it's 4x6 on the inside. And I'm going to set that underneath the cover. That's why the red liner tape's on there. And then I've got a frame die with some acetate, which is going to sit on top and cover that up. So the opening I need to cut is 4x6. I actually cut it about 4.5 by 6.5 just to give me a little bit extra room, because the frame is going to cover it anyway, so it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit off. And what I did is I just kind of took it and I said, okay, I want it to look about like that. And then I measured, and that was 1.5 inch from the top and 1 inch from the inside. And so I went ahead and measured and put those lines. Now you can draw all over this because it doesn't matter, you're going to cover it up anyway. So you have to cut that aperture. Now, to cut the aperture with the craft knife, the easiest way to do it, and you want to be kind of, I don't want to say careful, but you want to be patient with this, because you're going to start and you're just going to cut and you do it, but don't push down really hard. Just kind of run it back and forth with medium pressure, and it's going to take multiple passes to get through. Like, it's getting close now, I can feel it, but it's not quite through yet. And just be patient and keep going back and forth until you can feel that it's touching your glass mat or your cutting surface below. And I think it's through now. So it will take time. It's fine. And you just want to cut it all the way around. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, once you have it pretty much through, and you can see it's through, but it's not completely through. Sometimes if you go to the back side, you can see where the cuts are, but you can see where it's not through, and you can just kind of give it that last little bit of help to go through or to connect your corners. Okay, and there's your cover. Now, before you go any further, you want to make sure that your shadow box is going to fit in there, that your frame is going to fit over the top and cover everything, because you don't want to cover, use your cardstock and cover it and then realize that it's not going to work. So that looks good to me. Perfect. Okay. So everything's ready. Now we're going to cover this cardboard. We're going to cover all 4 pieces, and we'll start with the easy ones because these are straight. And you just want a piece of, I use 10.5 by 10.5 inch cardstock, and you're just going to set it in the middle, and before you, and you're going to glue it down. Now this is white pearl card because I'm going to do obviously a wedding album, so I wanted the white pearl card. It's double-sided. It's the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter. But we're going to glue this on to there, and then we're going to roll that around and tape it and glue it down here. So let's start with my glue on the other side. And I like the Kalal glue just because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And okay. And you just want to get it kind of centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's fine. But I just want to give it. And do the same thing on the next piece. And at this point, because these are square, if you have a pattern to your cardstock, it doesn't really matter like which direction you put it. It will soon, but it doesn't right now because these are 8.5 inch square, so it doesn't matter. And this is 10.5 inch square. So get it on there. Make sure it looks okay. And then on the last one, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, and then we'll cut out the center with our craft knife. And again, it doesn't matter which way you glue it down. And for this, you can use tacky glue, you can use tape, a tape pen, whatever kind of adhesive you like. I just happen to like the Kalal because it gives me a little bit of more wiggle time. I know you're not supposed to use it on coated cardstock for some reason, but okay, so this is to cover your spine, and it's 10.5, the same height as this one, by 5.5. Now this is 8.5 by 2.5. Now I don't want to put it exactly in the middle. I want to kind of skew it a little bit to the back because I'm going to leave a little bit of room, about 1/2 inch room on the front, if you remember, because I've got that shadow box. So I need a little bit of extra space there. So you don't have to measure it. It's just, you just want to remember that you're going to need a little bit of extra room there. I'm going to glue this down. Just about like that. Now, one thing that I like to do, and let me show you on this one. If you notice, see how I've got the white strip there between the two cardstocks? Now this is the same. They're both white pearl. So I don't have to put anything different, but I thought it would look nice to put a little bit of the silver mirror. And you're just going to kind of glue it on like that on each side so that you just get a little bit of a strip of the mirror card showing. And this piece is 1 inch by 9.5. And this is tacky glue, which I'm going to use because just in case I don't want it to take the finish off the mirror card. And if you line it up on your glass mat, you can use your grid on your glass mat to make sure that it's essentially straight so that you've got just like 1/8 of an inch showing. And same on this side. Just like that. And see, it's going to look like that. So you've got just that little strip between the cover and the other. Now, let's get to cutting this out. So we've got to cut this out so that we can get it wrapped around. And the easiest way to do it is to kind of cut in from the corner. Let's get over here so you can see. So just kind of cut in just about to the corner with your craft knife and just come up about that far on each corner. And about a 45-degree angle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to cut it enough so that you can wrap it around and glue it down. Then you're just going to cut these pieces out. And you can get a ruler if you want. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're just going to glue it down and it's going to get covered up anyway. So you just need to leave enough paper to wrap around and glue. So don't cut it too small. And there you go. Now, to get these to wrap around, you got to cut the corners a little bit as well. So the easiest way to do it that I found is to kind of cut a little bit, almost like you're cutting a tab, like when you're making a box, kind of right up to that corner. So you don't want to cut straight on. You want to cut a little bit to one side, just like that. And you want to cut each corner on all 3 of your pieces of cardboard. There. Now, on each of these, you want to hold this tight and just crease that right along the edge, because you're going to bend it over and glue it down. So you just want to kind of use your hands. You can, I suppose you could probably, I've never tried it, but you might be able to use your bone folder. But I find if you just rub it with your hands, it works pretty well. And just go around and bend each of them up before you start gluing, because then you can make sure that you've got enough. And now you can see why you needed to snip those corners a little bit at an angle, because if you'd cut them straight, they'd have been right in the way. So you want to cut just that little bit of an angle so that they'll cover over like that. And then once you get them all covered over, you can, I'm going to put some tape down and use some tacky glue, but the tape will give me an instant grab. And then the tacky glue will really hold it. Well, you can use your tape runner if you want, or just tacky glue or claw glue or whatever you got. But I find if you use some double-sided tape first, that gives you the instant grab, and you don't have to, because trying to get that bent around with tacky glue and hold it long enough is a little difficult. So let's get the tape off. Then I'm going to take my tacky glue and I'm going to run the tacky glue right along the edges. And you want to get a good amount of glue because you need it to stick really good. Okay, and just do one at a time. Put it in this, bend it over in the center, and then work your way out. That way you get it nice and straight. And I usually do opposite sides. It doesn't matter that much because you're going to cover it up with a piece on the inside anyway. But now for these, because I've got the glue on here instead of down on the cardboard, it'll glue to that other cardstock. But see, it makes a fairly clean looking corner, even though we're going to cover it up anyway. And why is that not? Let's not have any glue. And see, doesn't that look nice? And it's a nice hard cover. So there's one. And we're just going to go ahead and do the rest of them. I'm going to go ahead and put my tape on before I bend them over or fold them around because I think it'll be easier. Now on this one, as you can see, I put the tape on the inside too, and we're going to do essentially the same thing. We're just going to bend it back onto itself to go on the inside and fold over. And then let's peel all the tape off. And because these are so tight together, I'm going to go ahead and do the sides at least, because I'm going to put those down first. Because I want these sides to cover and help hold that extra piece from the window cut out. Now on these it's not quite as important, but I'm going to go ahead and do, because I don't think they're not going to overlap, but I'll go ahead and get them ready. And just make sure this is all glued down nice and tight. Okay. Now, there's my front cover. And then one of these is going to be on the back cover. And then this one's going to go underneath there to sandwich in and cover up and give you a nice clean finish on the inside of your book, so you don't see the back of your shadow box. Okay? And then we're going to connect it like this. So we're just going to put this onto here like that. And then we're going to put our front cover onto there. And this is where your glass mat can really help if you get it lined up. So get this piece lined up so it's on a line, both on the top, the bottom, and the sides. Because when you put this on, you want it to be even with the front and the back. So it's going to go like that. And then this one's going to go like that. And you want to make sure that you get the bottom and the tops lined up. so that it's completely straight. So when you close your book, your top cover and your bottom cover match. Just about like that. And see, I left that just a little bit extra room because that's where my shadow box is going to sit. So once you decide where you're going to put it, then you're just going to put some glue down. I think I'm going to do the same thing with the tape and then the glue on top of it, just to help give it a quick grab. Just again, make sure you get it all lined up before you stick anything down. And you line that up, and you want to leave a little bit of room so that when this bends up, because this is going to bend up like that, and you got to have enough room for that to bend up without running into it. So you need, oh, what is that, about a quarter, a little over a quarter of an inch. Get that on there, press it down, make sure it's good and held, and then you can put the front cover on. Same way. Now this one, because you've got the window and you want to make sure that I have the wider part on the bottom. You can do it however you want, but I want mine this way with this at the top and this at the bottom. And then you're going to lay it on there, get it all lined up so that it's straight. Leave enough room for the shadow box. And as you can see, no, let me set it down first. My little, there we go. My little strip of silver mirror card is actually in the window. That's okay. Don't worry about it. The frame will just go right over the top of it, and it's okay. I don't care. Now, once you have that in there, kind of give it a good press. We're going to let that dry just a little bit. While we're doing that, we're going to put the spine in. Now, you're going to glue the spine, so it looks like that. You're going to glue this flat side down onto the cardboard. Just kind of towards the center, this way and this way, slightly skewed to the back, again, because you want to leave room for that shadow box in the front. If you didn't have a shadow box, if you just did a flat cover on the inside or something on the outside of the cover, then you can make this piece narrower, and you can glue that right in the center. But I'm going to skew mine just closer to the back, and you're going to put it in there. But you don't want to see this because that just kind of looks ugly. So what I did is, let me find, oh, there it is. So I cut another piece of paper, another piece of that white pearl. So this is 8 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm actually going to glue it like this first. And then I'm going to put my spine down on top of it so that when it closes, you see the white pearl and not the other. And actually, before I even do that, I got to get this piece folded down, and I want a nice clean finish. So we're going to go ahead and fold these over, and it's kind of thick, especially with the pearl card and the mirror card. So it's a little bit tough, but you're going to do it the same way. You're just going to fold it over like that, top and bottom, and just give it a good burnish with your fingers. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to tape this down and put some glue. You can use red liner tape if you want. Since I'm going to glue additional cardstock over the top, I think this will be fine. I think on the other one I used my tape pen, but I don't have a tape pen right now. So we're going to use this. I think it'll be fine. Especially if you put a good amount of tacky glue on there. It's nice and strong. So bend that over. And don't worry about the scores down the side of the spine. We'll deal with that in a little bit. But we want to get this done first. Now you want your mirror card to actually wrap around like that, because if you just cut it to the 8.5, then it would just end right there, and you might see that end, and I didn't want to see that end. I wanted it to wrap all the way around and kind of get hidden. So that's why I did it that way. I think that's probably dry enough. Now I'm going to put that other piece over here, and then you can see why I did it that way, because it completely finishes that. Now this part's going to get covered up with another piece of card, but that way when you put your spine in, all you see is that pretty white pearl, not the cardboard. The first one I did, I forgot to do this, or I didn't do this, and then I had to try and piece some cardstock in later. So we're just going to glue this in. And try not to, you don't have to glue down in the gaps. You're just going to get a good layer, thin layer of tacky glue all across. And just center it up. And like I said, this part and this part's going to get covered up anyway, so it doesn't much matter. You're just trying to cover that spine so that it looks nice. And if you rub it, you'll be able to see right where that cardboard spine is, because you need to be able to know where that is to get on there. Now let's go ahead and finish this back cover. So your other piece is going to sit, oh, not that one, sorry. You're going to take a piece of card. This is 8.25 by 8.25, and we're just going to put it right on there, and that just finishes that inside back cover. So let's go ahead and do that while we've got it here. And for this, you can use patterned cardstock, you can use whatever you want. I just went with the pearl white because I think it looks nice and clean for a wedding album. But you just center it up in there to cover up those corners. Maybe you can see that. Yeah, I guess you can see it. Those corners and where it connects to the spine. Now, on the inside, I've got my shadow box, and my shadow box is going to go on here, and then I've got another piece, that third piece of cardboard is going to go on there. But if you look at that, then you got this gap, and that looks really weird, I think. So what I did, and if you don't have the shadow box dies, you can actually make your own shadow box using the same technique. And so what I did is I created essentially a shadow box, a big shadow box that's going to go around here to be, let me show you the old other one. So see, this one's got my shadow box underneath there, but as you can see, there's like another big shadow box all the way around. And I just made myself one. And the way you do that is you cut strips of paper that are 8, right? Yeah, 8 by 2 1/4, and you score it 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. So a half, 1, 1 1/2, 2. And then you're just gonna bend these around, and you need 4 of them. And 2 of them, you're just gonna bend around like this. And that 1/4 inch tab is your gluing tab. So you're gonna just kind of fold and burnish them. And then you're gonna put glue on that little 1/4 inch tab. And then you're going to make a square, but the easiest way I found to do it is because they're all squares, you can just fold it over and fold it flat, and then when you push it, you can get a nice good pressure on the tacky glue, but it opens right back up to be your square. Now, when you put these together, that looks terrible, right? So you got to do something with that corner. So as you see on the shadow box, they mitered the corners, and the die does that automatically. But how do you do that if you want to do it yourself? You want to cut that corner out. So this is a 1/2 inch. So you take the other 2 strips and you go down 2 squares. So this is, maybe if I fold it, it'd be easier to see. So you got a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then right there, you want to measure in a 1/2 inch, make a line from an angle from that corner up to the 1/2 inch, and then straight out. And then I just kind of angled that gluing tab on both sides. And then we're going to snip that away. And it's not really going to show, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it actually looks pretty good. And if you don't have the shadow box die and you want to make your own shadow box, you can do this in any size you want, and just glue these squares onto a piece of paper. So you just adjust the size. This will make an 8 by 8 square. If you wanted to make a 5 by 7, then you make 2 that are 7 and 2 that are 5, and pick, and then just make sure that if you have different sizes, that you miter the same size. So if like if you have 2 5s and 2 7s, then you want to make sure that you miter the 2 5s or the 2 7s, but not a 5 and a 7. And then you can just glue that down again on that same tab. But this is a good way to make shadow boxes in any size that you want. And it's pretty easy to do. And you know to measure back a 1/2 inch, because this is a 1/2 inch. So if this was a 1 inch frame then you'd have to measure in an inch as opposed to half an inch. Now you've got these corners, so when you put this, they just fit like that. And see, you've got a nice mitered corner. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to glue them together. I'm just going to glue that corner onto there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's not really going to show it that much. You will see the outside corners. You're not going to see this top part because it's going to be glued onto the cover. But you just glue that and hold it together. And just make sure you got a 90-degree, that it's straight. And this side's going to go in there, and the other side's going to go in the other one. So and don't do as I'm doing and gluing this on top of my pearl card because I just got glue on it. But there you go, nice 8x8 shadow frame. And this is what we're going to use to fill the gap on the inside of our inside cover. We're just going to put it right like that. And then our other cover will sit right on there. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put this shadow box down. Where's my poke tool? There it is. And I used red liner tape just because I thought it would. I wanted to make sure that it would hold nice and strong. And then you want to make sure that you get it perfectly centered. So if you have to flip it over to do that, then go ahead. Sorry if my head's in the way. I'm trying to get it straight. As you can see, I made that hole 4.5 by 6.5 because it just gave me a little bit of extra play. Okay. And once you get that down, just kind of press that. You don't want to crush the shadow box, but and now we're going to glue this right in there and see how it fits nice and tight. And then you're going to center it this way. But we're going to put a little bit of glue on the frame itself. And it just fits over this shadow box. Because if you remember, this was 8, and then you take 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So the inside is only 7, whereas this is a 5 by 7 shadow box. So it's exactly the same. But it actually works out really nicely because then it fits nice and snug. Now, we're going to finish that off by gluing this piece right on top. And we're just going to center it up right on top of the other one. And then we'll put the spine in. Now to do that, you can glue on your Shadowbox frame and also put some glue, almost out of tacky glue. Also put some glue on the back of this, because that's also going to sit right up against that other piece of cardboard. Okay. Now it should be square, so it shouldn't matter. Just make sure. Put it this way. Okay. And because it's tacky glue, you do have just at least a minute or so to make sure you've got it on there straight. Looks pretty good. And just give that a good rub down so that the glue grabs all the way around. Again, you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to crush that stuff, but now okay, finally time to put our spine in. Now this is going to glue down, and you can take this time and sort of find the curve and bend it up. And if it doesn't want to crease, what I found is if you take a ruler, kind of put in there, it helps kind of bend it in the right spot. And same here. See, it's going to look just like that. I'm going to go ahead and put my frame on. Now, this is a 5x7 frame, and I put acetate in the middle because I don't want to, and I'm going to put it on just like that. And I put red liner tape. It's already on there, so let me go ahead and do that. I keep saying we're going to put the spine in, and then I don't. We'll get there. Almost there. Now again, you want to center this up. So sorry if my head's in the way. Right over that aperture. Yep, I got my red liner tape too close to that edge. So I'm going to tuck a little bit of tacky glue in here. Now, see how clean that looks around that edge? Even though you got that shadow box in there, you don't see that big gap or anything. And when you open it up, you've got a nice hard surface on the inside. So if you wanted to put like a little envelope or something to put keepsakes or something in there. All right, now almost at the end. Now we're going to put the spine in, and it's going to go right like that. And you can see where that bend is. And remember I said just kind of skew it towards the back and then straight, just with an even gap on the top and the bottom. So we're going to get some nice, good, let's see if I have enough tacky glue for this. Again, you could use, well, actually, maybe I will use red liner tape and then tacky glue on top. Because it is on the pearl card, I want it to be nice and strong. Okay, got a good burnish on there. Can't get it off. Okay, there's one piece. Okay, there we go. We'll put some tacky glue on it to help hold it and to give me a little bit of wiggle room. Okay. And just push it down, hold it down. Now you want to get a good rub in there, so you can take something like your bone folder and just rub between each of the little page pieces. Just like that. Perfect. Now, that's essentially it, except you got to make the pages. So the pages are 8 by 8, and the way I do them is I'm going to take, I'll cut these into 8 by 8, and I put one on each side of the tab and glue them together. And that gives you some nice, sturdy, rigid pages. So let me get my pages cut, and then I'll show you how to glue them on. Okay, now I've got 12 sheets of 8 by 8 white cardstock. And I'm going to glue one to each side of these tabs so that they're each glued to a tab and they're glued back to back, sandwiching that tab in between. That gives you nice sturdy pages. So I feel like my spine is pretty well in there now. So we're going to start with, I'm going to put a small strip of, I'll do tacky glue. That should hold it. I'm going to do a strip of tacky glue down one side. Now, I like to start not on the outside, but on the inside. So we'll start with the front, because you can kind of stand it in there, and I got to turn it around so I can see. Because you want to stand it in and get it, that tab up against it, so that the pages are even with the tab. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So right here, you want to make sure that this and this are even on both sides. And you just want to get it in there so that it's going to stick. And I think I'll go ahead and do one on each of them and then come back and add the second one. Like, that'll be easiest. Okay, one thing to do as you're putting in each page, what I do is I kind of all stand them all up to make sure that they're even. And if you get them straight down here on the bottom and side to side and your spine is straight, they should be, but it's always good to double check and just kind of hold them together. And if you hold them together, you can kind of see like that they're straight, or at least close enough. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and put on my second layer, and I'm just going to take this one and sandwich it on top of each of them, sandwiching that tab in between the two pages. So I think I'll maybe start in the back. And I think I'm going to use Kalal glue for this one. And for this one, if you make sure that the corners are straight there, it should be perfect down here. And then just make sure that the pages still move. Now, the only bad thing about Collal glue is it does take longer to dry, so you kind of have to make sure that it doesn't get slid or move at all before it dries. Maybe tacky glue would have been a better choice. This will work. Okay. And that's it. I'm all done. You can see I've got my 6 double-sided pages in there. Got my album, nice hardcover, hard spine. I'm going to put my little plaque with the name and date there, or you could put it on the side if you wanted to. And I showed you how to make the little inset there so that you hide that shadow box in there. Now let me show you a couple of others that I've made. So I showed you this one to start with. This is the first one I did with a shadow box. Now this one I cut the opening to 5 by 7, and because I was thinking the shadow box was 5 by 7, not realizing the inside was 4 by 6. So I just then put some little decorative on the outside of the frame. I think it works. Not ideal. So I like it better cutting to the 4 by 6 opening, but it's nice. It's got that same idea. This one I did, it's not a shadow box. It's actually just a little, it's a little bit of dimensional, but it didn't need the extra cover. So in this one, I just put an extra piece of paper covering up that dimensional cover on the inside for a baby album. And I used my animals edgeables for that one. And then this is just a plain one, no inset at all. It's just a flat cover. And again, just covered the inside with paper and just made that a flat cover. And same with this one. I did a little foiling on the front, but this was the first one I did, and you can see This is where I forgot to put the cover that spine before I put, put the cardstock on the spine before I put it in. So then I had to try and fit a little piece of paper in there to cover the cardboard. So not ideal, but just give you some ideas. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to share your makes if you make one. Have a good evening. Thanks.